Big news in Greece today, and with that we are going to turn to Matt Dalton, who joins us from Brussels. Hi Matt,
Hi.
how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks for being on with us this morning. Tell us a little bit about, let's start off just talking about the protest. There was a 48-hour protest declared in Greece in reaction to the austerity measures.
Well, the Greek political leaders yesterday morning, after all-night talks, reached an accord on austerity that was basically sought by the EU and the IMF. This is probably the third or fourth round of austerity. It's about 3 billion euros in spending cuts, cutting the minimum wage by 20%, more cuts in retiree pensions. So there were protests earlier this week. There are more protests that are going on right now. This is kind of stoking fears that Greek society is reaching the breaking point of austerity, the limits of austerity. The political consensus, the accord that they reached yesterday morning, appears to be holding. There have been a few resignations of a few lower-level politicians, but that's the crucial test will come later this week when the Parliament actually has to vote on these measures.
Gotcha. And breaking news, we are joined here by by Dennis Berman, Marketplace editor. Very important breaking news. Dennis, glad to have you here this morning.
Great to be here. You know, it's so interesting seeing what's happening right there in Greece. Greece and Germany have a bit of a tenuous history, particularly as it relates to World War II. What's the sense from people you talk to in Greece, just about the feeling about Germany driving this process and Greece having to answer to Germany?
Well, you know, it's not just Germany. I mean, they're sort of the symbol, but it's the EU generally speaking. It's the IMF. It's the feeling that the Greek society and the Greek economy has been taken over by basically a foreign political system that is calling the shots in Greece right now. So, there's a task force it's called a task force from the EU that's headed by a German that is kind of permanently stationed in Athens and overseeing the implementation of these programs. The EU insists that this task force and everything they do really is merely providing advice to the Greece government, technical support, helping them implement a program that is theirs to implement. But I think everybody understands that is not the reality, that this is a program that has been forced upon Greece by its international creditors, to be fair, in exchange for receiving billions and billions of euros of loans. So there is a trade-off here. It's not all pain for Greece.
And Matt, what about the vote on Sunday? I mean, how did it go down in Greece? The fact that European ministers were saying, okay, Greece, we're glad you've agreed to this, but we're not going to see it until we're not going to believe it until we see it. We need you guys to vote. We need this to pass the Parliament, and then we'll go ahead with the money. Was that just seen as kind of a lack of trust from European ministers in Greece?
In a word, yes, total lack of trust.
Do you think that's fair? Do you think that was a fair lack of trust there?
It's a good question, really good question, actually.
In a word, yes.
Come on, Matt, you're dancing around the question here. The Greeks don't like the Germans. They don't like what's happening to them, but they have to take their medicine, and they don't like the taste of it.
No, they don't. But I think the question of whether this mistrust is warranted, I mean, I think the Greeks actually are not quite as mistrustworthy as the EU makes them out to be. The new government that came into power after when the bailout was first negotiated, this was the socialist government of George Papandreou. They had all the numbers, all the official statistics had been basically faked. So there was a whole bunch of Greece was actually in a much worse position when the bailout was negotiated than everybody thought it was going to be, because the previous government had been faking the official statistics. The debt was a lot higher, the deficit was bigger. So when when you consider that Greece was actually starting from a much worse position than everybody thought, they've done a lot. They've done a lot of fiscal consolidation, a lot of austerity. This might be the biggest fiscal consolidation in recent economic history.
All right, Matt, we're going to unfortunately have to cut it off there. Thank you so much. In 2 words, thank you. And
okay,
we look
in
forward
1 word,
to
no problem.
Matt Daltonopoulos. He's an apologist for the Greeks.
Thank you so much, Matt.